Well friends, Keanu Reeves has officially returned to the big screen. Oh yes, the fourth Matrix came out in 2021, but it was a complete failure. Even Keanu's cameo in SpongeBob made more sense than the Matrix sequel. But the fourth John Wick, friends, that's what every fan of quality, well-balanced action movies with a serious plot should definitely watch. And if you think that's the end of our spoiler-free review, then hold on to your coffee. In the next couple of minutes, we'll go through all the pros and cons of the movie in detail, and most importantly, tell you why this is the best John Wick installment. So sit back and relax, and we'll get started. It's worth noting right away that we went into the fourth John Wick with very high concerns. Sure, critics were shouting from the rooftops that it was the best part of the franchise, but we didn't really see any negativity towards the third movie. And in our humble opinion, Parabellum is such a passable action movie that we were ready to bury the franchise after it. The third John Wick is really just one big shootout, with opponents changing only occasionally and virtually no plot. If you can describe the movie's plot in a 2-minute recap, then it's clearly a passable film. And the third John Wick could be summed up in 20 seconds. The fourth installment pleasantly surprised us. After the last time, we had a slim hope that Chad Stahelski would work on the white spots and try to fix the flaws. But nowadays, such things usually remain unchanged and the bad aspects only multiply. But not this time. The plot of the new John Wick is truly multifaceted, and what's most interesting, lately every other director starts shouting on every corner that their movie was initially supposed to be 3 times longer. But these statements don't really mean anything, and sometimes such words make us sick. But in this case, against the background of the news that a whole hour of runtime was cut out of the fourth John Wick, we want to seriously start writing tweets in support of releasing the full director's cut. That's how much we liked the plot of this movie, and that's how much we want to recommend it to you. There are characters whom you sympathize with, there are those for whom you root for, and it's not just the main character. Of course, there are also villains, and you genuinely hate them with all your heart. And at the same time, the fourth John Wick essentially created several heroes and villains from scratch, and each of the new characters is really well developed. And since we're already on such a drinking binge, let's stop and talk a little more about the new characters. Bill Skarsgård's character is pure evil in the flesh, and if at first he seems like some kind of run-of-the-mill villain, by the end of the movie you'll hate that bastard with all your heart. There is a second villain in the movie, but since the trailers didn't really focus on him, we won't dwell too much on the intermediate antagonist. We'll just note that the scene in the club with the secondary villain is one of the best in the movie. And yes, in the fourth John Wick, there is another scene in a club, and John is ruining everyone's fun again by starting a shootout to an awesome beat. As for the hero, Johnny Yen's character unexpectedly turned out to be a deep and ambiguous guy. If we take a close example, in the third Wick movie, there was the no less cool actor, Mark Dacascos, but we are 146% sure that you won't even remember his character's name. But in the fourth John Wick, they didn't limit themselves to just one colorful Asian character and added the great Japanese father, Hiroyuki Sanada, to the plot. This guy is as always cool, Japanese and brutal to the maximum. And although Sanada's character appears on screen for only about 20 minutes, you really empathize with him and begin to love him after just 5 minutes of screen time. Well, what would it be without spoilers? Ian McShane remains an awesome manager with his unparalleled charisma as an aristocrat with incredible wit. His character continues to play the same role, but this time the stakes are seriously raised. His relationship status with John Wick becomes especially clear. But who we missed was Lawrence Fishburne. His Bowery King appeared criminally little on screen, and his role was reduced to more of a cameo than a full-fledged role. As for Keanu Reeves, our wonderful Belarusian is still magnificent as the life-beaten retired assassin. If you have recently felt like Keanu is playing the same John Wick in every movie, cartoon and game, it might be true. But it's in John Wick where his acting talent really shines, and it feels completely different. It's immediately clear that Keanu really enjoys working on the film. And when you see trick after trick on screen, it really becomes scary. It's amazing to see 60-year-old Keanu Reeves, who is really awesome on set. We are not arguing that Tom Cruise is also a Hollywood big shot and a handsome guy when it comes to stunts and action scenes, but Keanu did at least 50 complex fight scenes with his participation in the new movie, and that's really worth respecting. And of course, we can't fail to mention actor Lance Reddick, who played the role of Karen in the franchise. Unfortunately, just a couple of days ago, this wonderful actor passed away, and it's very sad that such cool Hollywood masters leave so early. Like everyone else, Reddick had good and bad projects, but his character was always the hallmark of the Continental Hotel and the entire John Wick franchise. Among the newbies in the franchise, it's also worth noting Shamir Anderson, who also turned out to be an extremely ambiguous character, but nevertheless, from the beginning to the end of the movie, he will evoke various emotions in you, bringing the viewer closer to the necessary condition, especially closer to the end of the film. Well, since we are talking about special effects, the fourth John Wick movie is a real find in that regard. In fact, it's hard to compare this film with anything else, and the only thing that comes to mind is the many second brawls shot in one take from Daredevil. If we were to make a comparison to something like Black Widow, while Natasha is doing her signature leg grab, you'll usually see a cut of 3 different parts of the same scene put together. And as a result, it's not just a fight scene, but a mix of various fragments edited to match the action music. The new John Wick installment is a completely different story. For example, one of the scenes, which we'll simply refer to as $40 million without spoilers, is a top-notch fight and action scene with impressive choreography and filming. The screenwriters have really thought through the theme of fights in various locations. The characters engage in a fight on a busy highway, throwing villains towards passing cars. The fight takes place on a very dangerous and steep staircase, using the steps as obstacles and trying to regularly push the bad guys off of them. The writers also didn't forget about the gimmicks used in previous installments. For example, in the past, we were introduced to a business black suit that could withstand bullets like a bulletproof vest, and now it's a regular feature of the character on screen. However, you shouldn't criticize the writers for the unscientific nature of such an invention, because similar bulletproof suits actually exist in our everyday lives. Undoubtedly, the film's visuals and music are also a huge plus. Regarding the former, almost every shot in the film could easily be used as a wallpaper on your smartphone. They really put a lot of work into the imagery this time around. But the music is especially good as well, and just like in previous times, some of the compositions will definitely stick with you, and you'll want to listen to them again and again. And until we get to the most important advantage of the film, let's take a break to tell you about the drawbacks of the movie. And what did you think? They didn't exist? No, actually the movie is as magnificent as the critics evaluated it. But in our humble opinion, it has some minor flaws. For example, the theme of betrayal by Winston was not actually fully disclosed and explained to the public. In the finale of the third movie, if you remember, Winston shot John, and it was not clear until the end whether it was planned or he betrayed his friend. Yes, there is a short explanation in the fourth part, and the relationship between the two heroes in the finale becomes completely clear. But there was no actual explanatory conversation between them about that rooftop scene. Also, at the very beginning of the movie, John Wick does something that is more or less meaningless and doesn't carry much plot weight for the future events. But the main and absolute advantage of John Wick 4 is its unexpected ending. But we promised you a review without spoilers, so we will keep our word. Although, well, in the finale of the movie, whether to say it or not, alright, let's not spoil the impression of watching it for you. But we were in complete shock from the ending of the movie, and there was never anything like this even in the times of the release of the first part. Yes, the killing of Joseph and Viggo Tarasov was the peak of emotional excitement in the first movie, but still, amidst all these events, a completely different plot and ending loomed, which surely was supposed to be the finale of the story, but the franchise was put on a conveyor belt and everything went wrong. Therefore, what the screenwriters came up with for the final twist of the fourth part was simply an incredible decision, which we will undoubtedly dissect in a full analysis of John Wick 4, which in turn will be released very soon. Believe us, the ending deserves a separate video, and actually, if we are honest, more than one. That's all for today. If you liked the video, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. See you in the next one.